that probably this possible, I mean, the future students can possibly have. What is the future perspective of logistics and trucking business in the United States? Can you explain that an example of global trends where you are, working at the moment?
Well, first of all, I want to say good morning to everybody, or good afternoon where you guys are at. And I want to thank you guys for all allowing me to be here to speak a little bit and introduce myself and just talk about the industry for a little bit. Real quick too, I just think it's best that I give a little background about myself, just so you guys know who I am and where I've been in this industry. Going on 15 years in the industry. Originally born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Graduated from the University of Iowa in 2005 and joined a company, AFN Logistics. Was there for 13 years. So I've learned a lot. I've seen good markets, bad markets, ups, downs, recessions. I've seen everything. So to say that, I've seen many trucking companies thrive. I've seen many go out of business. I've seen customers come and go. So I'm hoping that I could bring a little bit of insight to you guys. And just as of 2 years ago, our company AFN was purchased by Global Trans, based out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and that's currently where I'm at. So I guess you want to start on the future of logistics. Uncertain, but I think the truth of the matter is that people are always going to need goods to be moved via truckload. This year is probably the prime example of the entire scope of logistics all in 9 months. We've seen a fairly slow start, a pandemic which created a uptick for the month of March because everyone needed goods very fast. Then a complete drop off in April and May.
Yeah, that's right.
And then now, since probably the end of May, we call it Memorial Day, which is May 31st in the United States. I know you guys are familiar with that. A insane spike almost across all markets till today. A lot of factors with that. So in terms of the outlook, I think the outlook in the sense of your guys' business and understanding, I think that right now there's a shortage of drivers and trucks, so capacity is at a premium, which allows trucking companies to make money. It also allows or makes it necessary for brokerages like myself and liaisons to customers to have calls with shippers direct and let them understand exactly what the market is. Because they've been in a situation probably since the beginning of 2008 where they were in a desirable position. They were able to buy better than they are now. There was more capacity than there was shipments available. Thus, they were able to dictate the market and the pricing. So we can start with that, and then if your team has some questions, we can continue to go forward. So, but again, thank you, and just keep me in the conversation. I just wanted to start. Let me know what you guys have questions about. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I just making some addition to your words. So that's correct. We still got a shortage of drivers. And Mark, what do you think? The situation happened on a previous. This April and May when the almost all loads was running around $1 per mile. So what exactly pushed the market to go up to $3, $4 as of now?
So in short, again, it's always a situation of capacity. We work in a supply and demand industry. We are literally strictly based off supply and demand. The prices that are paid when there's a surplus of trucks on the road and a less of loads, that means that the rates are going to dictate, they're going to be less. And then obviously now, when there's an abundance of freight shipments and a decrease of drivers available, freight shipments are going to go higher. Now, exactly why the factors that happen in the United States. Okay, so first of all, this is a couple different factors. Because of COVID-19 and some of the things, our government, and I'm sure you guys are familiar, but I'll just give a brief for anybody who's not, put a lot of various stimulus packages to help people who were out of work. So what inevitably happened a lot was a lot of the people driving trucks in the United States, they were furloughed or basically put on like partial unemployment. And they were paid a certain amount of money to help them get through a time like this. So when it was really, really bad in April and May, they parked their trucks and stopped working. Well, the government continued to pay them furlough, a certain amount of payment each week.
Yeah.
And then when when things started picking back up in May and June, the cost, the amount the government was paying them was more than they were making driving a truck. Because you guys got to remember, while most of the Uzbek companies that you guys know and train use the owner-operator leased-on system, many trucking companies in the United States, more than the leased-on owner-operator thing, use a straight company driver idea. So they're paid per mile at a rate. They don't get to negotiate their prices, but they're guaranteed work. So those drivers, if that makes sense, were making more sitting at home collecting a check than working. So, common sense says if someone's going to pay you the same amount to sit at home and not work, why would you go back to work? So we lost a huge percentage of drivers that were able to collect through stimulus packages and things like that. And that was a very, very noticeable, especially in the Southern California and just the West Coast in general. So by that many drivers being off the road, then the ports picking up, it just turned into a mess in California because a surplus of shipments come in. A significant amount of drivers were still at home not working. And now someone's got to move these shipments. So what happens? Shippers say, okay, I'll pay you this much. I'll pay you more. I'll pay you more. And then eventually the markets go up. And then as soon as a market like California changes where every load is paying significantly higher, then everybody wants to go there. So when somebody's in Chicago and they get offered a load to Dallas or wherever, they don't want to go to Dallas. They don't want to go to Iowa. They don't want to go to Ohio. They want to go to California. So now you have a big influx of, you're not able to move the shipments to other parts of the country because every driver wants to go to California, or every owner operator, or everybody who can control their pay wants to move all their fleet to California because that's where the best paying loads are. So then you see a huge flux of no capacity in other markets because nobody wants to go there. Everyone wants to go to where the big paying money is. Does that make sense for you guys?
Yeah.
And I have a question, sir. My name is Dave. I'm also working as a manager in one of the companies. Transportation logistics sfere.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
I'm sorry?
I said nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you too, sir. I have a small question. So, people studying our educational center, but I also think there is some importance of degrees in terms of this sphere. So what do you think? Does a person with good experience, needing good experience, need like bachelor's or master's degree in the future in the sphere of supply chain and management? Like, does a person need to study at the university or a master's to be more like a needed person in terms of employment?
So let me start by saying I am a firm believer in education. I believe that you should always be educated. I'm a firm believer that every person that has the opportunity to go to college should. But in my opinion, in what we do, more of the experience comes from actual interaction with drivers, with shippers, with brokers. Our job, you learn more by talking to people and, more importantly, listening to people. The number one thing when you're working with your dispatchers or drivers and you're trying to find either new drivers or new customers or new carriers to run shipments, let's just say, you need to listen to what they say. People always want to understand in our logistics. It's all a big puzzle. You know, why does everyone want to go where they want to go? Why are some carriers able to run lanes for a decreased price than others? So I would say that in the sense of business and economics and just understanding what we do, yes, I believe education is extremely important. I do believe you can be successful in this industry without having a master's degree. I don't have one, but I would like. I'm in the midst of trying to do continuing learning to do that. But I think that your team should focus at the beginning on getting a bachelor's degree in either economics, supply chain, or whatever you guys offer that you think fits. Even communications. I mean, we speak all day. We're on the phone all day. I mean, that's what everyone, I mean, we're either on the phone or you're sending emails. And 2020 communication isn't necessarily as straightforward as it was 30 years ago, where you pick up the phone and call somebody and tell a driver, here's load 1, here's load 2, here's load 3, go. Now you guys have messaging systems, we have text message, we have we have so many mediums. So in short, I think that a master's degree is not necessary, but I think that your team, and as you train everybody, make sure that they're not only continuing to be well-rounded, educated-wise, but also when you are on the job, every day you learn something. I've been doing this 15 years, and I try to learn something every single day about
That's a good experience.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And you know what? Tell your team to write things down. Tell them when they hear stuff. And then also teach your team, if they have a question about something, pull someone aside or ask you or ask a superior. Or reach out to somebody and say, hey, listen, I just had a phone call with so-and-so discussing a port or a shipment or hazmat. Can you help me get the information about this? And then once they learn it one time, the best experience in this industry is to do it once, do it twice, then you'll figure out the right way to do it. So, but yes, I am a proponent of education, but I believe that a strong piece of education comes on the job in logistics.
Gotcha. Pure experience. Okay.
For sure.
One more question, if I am allowed to give.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Most dispatchers sometimes say, hey, broker didn't want to talk to me because I had like lower language barrier, so I didn't speak well in English, so he didn't like to talk to me. How does it feel like to talk to not very good English knowing person when you want to give some loss to them?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I think that that's a very inappropriate and rude thing for someone to say to a person with a different language barrier or a communication deficiency. I think personally that it is ideal to either, if that's the case that someone says that, then I think that you guys should discuss a messaging way, an email or something like that, so you can communicate. But first of all, I think that's an offensive thing to say to somebody, and I'm sorry that somebody on your team may have had to deal with that. Because listen, man, we're all different. We got to work together. This is what this whole world is about, man. Everyone's different. Everyone comes from a different background. In a sense, though, I think that it is best that your team be more understanding of the terminology of freight. Consignee, shipper, refrigerated, temperature control, things like that. Words like that understand lumper charges, com checks, things that are like almost like a terminology, an encyclopedia, etc. of freight or logistics, right? Once your team is able to understand those shipments. Communication, whether there's a slight accent, a major barrier, a minor barrier, whatever it might be, knowledge is still knowledge. Our information is the same. I mean, what we're trying to say is right now, people may want to negotiate, and maybe they're frustrated more with the price you give them. You know, maybe that was the problem. But in a sense, I believe that you can always work through a language barrier. And I think these new messaging systems, whether it's Telegram or, you know, GChat or various things like that, can kind of eliminate that. And again, tell your team not to get discouraged. Like many jobs where people are selling, some people can be very rude and some people can be very gracious. And you're going to come across both of them. So if one person's rude, you know, it's going to happen. And it probably happen every day. And your team just needs to understand that, you know, people are people, and some days they're angry. Yeah, some days they're mad about something at home or in their personal life, and they take it to work. And I don't think that should be something anybody in your team should be discouraged from.
Gotcha. I appreciate the answer, sir. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So the Instagram visitors probably have some questions, right, guys? Go ahead and ask questions. So the Mark, I hope he's ready to answer the question that you have about.
I'll give you guys my best. I'll tell you that much. I'll do my best to help.
Hey, yes, guys, you don't always meet such a great guy on Instagram. Just give your questions so you have a chance.
I'll do my best. So yeah, I'll help you guys out for sure.
Yeah, and those who are in the Zoom conference also give questions, please. We are waiting.
Hey, I do remember there is some question about, probably you are also commenting on that question. The Jack, I think his name was Jack, yeah. He asked about Amazon. What's the future perspective of Amazon? Because Amazon working on a blockchain loads. They are decreasing the number, of loads that are mostly required that your own trailer. So that's asking, it's going to be preloaded on Amazon trailers. And what is the future of the Amazon? Whether the carriers like interstate carriers will be able to run Amazon loads in the future?
Okay, so I want to preface this question by saying I have no affiliation with Amazon. I can only go off of my speculation. Okay, they're not currently a customer of ours, so I can only go off what I read and what I believe. Amazon is now probably the single, them and Walmart are probably the two biggest forces in the logistics shipping industry, in my opinion, in a sense of how they can directly dictate capacity, which affects every other customer. Amazon's $50 billion company, so they're definitely not going anywhere. Basically, what Amazon is trying to do is to put their freight needs above everybody else. So what they decided to do was purchase trailers, offer power only, get a piece of technology like the Relay app that allows drivers directly to accept, decline. So in my personal opinion, you guys.
That's right. So this is we don't know what's going to be in the future.
So the Amazon. So let me tell you this. Most of again, like I spoke of earlier, in my knowledge, I work with many Uzbek companies and other companies in Eastern Europe that love Amazon and like it because, one, owner-operators can choose their own loads. Two, they don't need trailers, so they can limit their cost itself. And my opinion, this is, honestly, it helps a certain group of drivers. Now, you guys got to remember, there's 40,000 other trucks on the road that don't do any Amazon. That do a totally different business. So my sense is Amazon's going to continue to bring on more drivers and owner operators that will run for them. The problem is I try to tell everybody this: you need to have a difference of customers. You have to have you can't be all in on Amazon. If you guys are going to start a business in trucking and you only want to haul Amazon freight, then you are susceptible, or you can become, they can control the market. So if you guys are getting $3 a mile now and freight dipped down and volume goes down, and then they're offering $1.30 and you're only hauling Amazon, then you pretty much have to take the rates that are out there. So you're very susceptible to their markets. They are dictating your prices. Now they're great, but in March and April, they were not great. And you had to take the loads and deal with the low prices. So I think Amazon is going to be there. And I think that they seem to be a great customer. And again, they're not currently a customer, so I don't want to say anything about it. But I think that my suggestion to anybody that's on this, that may be listening, that owns a truck or works for a trucking company or whatever, is that any successful business, whether it's trucking, whether it's a retail store, you need to be diversified. You need to have multiple customers. And usually a rule of thumb is that you don't want to have more than 30% of your business tied up with one customer. Because the minute that you do, you're susceptible to everything they say. What happens if you have 50% of your business tied up with a customer and they go out of business? Now you lose 50% of your business. So all I can say is, while Amazon loads are great now, and a lot of your drivers like them, there's a lot of good things about them. And I'm not saying that whatever. I would say if you're going to grow a trucking company in the United States, make sure you have other partners. Make sure you have other shippers that you work with, other brokers, and not that your whole fleet is just waiting on Amazon, or anybody, or UPS, or FedEx, or Coca-Cola. Diversification in every business is key. So if you're 100% all in with one, you're tied to them. And if they have a bad issue, a bad year, or there's a claim on a shipment and they won't use you anymore, or a legal thing, then you're pretty much back to starting point. So I just think overall, Amazon's not going anywhere. And I think that just my suggestion to anybody out there is make sure that you're not only just taking Amazon business, that you need to diversify, grow your contacts, grow your brokers, and make sure that you have other things out there that are going on.
Thank you, Mark. That was pretty much, I guess. So we have got next question here. He wants to hear your advice to give to new companies that are like beginning to starting this business, like going to this business, and what kind of problems they could confront, they can meet. So that's kind of stuff. He wants to hear your advice, I guess.
Okay. And he's talking about going into the trucking industry or into the brokerage industry?
Yes.
Trucking industry.
Yeah, trucking.
Okay, so in any business, you're only as good as your employees. If you're the owner of a company and you have good employees, you should usually have a good thing. So my first thing to them, any trucking company, is I would say you need to hire reliable drivers. That is a key to any business in this. Drivers are what makes everything run. And when you have drivers that are not reliable, that don't take care of your equipment, they're basically a reflection of your trucking company itself. So you got to make sure. I mean, good drivers are hard to find today, but the first thing I would say is make sure that you have a reliable driver, and make sure that they're going to take care of your equipment, and make sure that they're forthcoming and very communicative. You don't want to get a relationship in our industry with brokerages or with Amazon or with anybody, and you're missing shipments and you're not letting them know, and you're missing them and you're not telling them you're late, or if you have a breakdown and you're not explaining why. So I would say, first off, you need to get good drivers behind the wheel of your equipment.
Exactly.
Secondly,
it's not about quantity, it's about quality. That's very correct.
Yeah. Secondly, I think that you need to hire a couple people, or if you're going to be small, you yourself need to make sure you're making as many contacts across the board, with brokerages are always the easiest because brokers will set up carriers right away for the most part. We have like a 3-month rule, I would say, across the industry.
How to first grab the attention of brokers from the early like start jobs, like they came to trucking business, small fleet like 5 to up to
how the new company can confront any kind of obstacles and problems. So you were telling that.
Yeah. Wait, I remember that. Okay, so what I was basically saying, so is the class still on, or is it me and you talking?
No, I'm going from our school page live.
Gotcha.
So people still watching. We're definitely going to save this live stream, and
yeah. So I believe the last thing I was talking about after we discussed getting good drivers under your equipment and taking care of it is, and he asked how can brokers or how can new companies get in contact with brokers? I said resources like the DAT, seeing who the postings are, internet truck stop, companies like that allow load postings. Even if you can't cover a load sometimes, but you see a lane you may like, it may be beneficial for your company to call that posting and say, hey, we look for Florida to PA all the time. Can I get a rep at your company? Can I start a relationship with somebody? Can I talk to a carrier rep? Whoever. I don't have a truck for this particular shipment, but I really like this load and we need it frequently. And I think if you do that across, every large brokerage has DAT postings. So I would go to those things first of all. Then other types of ways I would start to try to set up with different companies that offer freight is most of the large companies, JB Hunt, our company, C.H. Robinson, they have a load board. Doing the online load board is always a good start. So my thing is this. I believe we're headed to a spot in technology where everything can be done on a phone or there, but I don't ever believe a person is going to be replaced in this industry. And there's certain people, I'm not going to mention their names, that have done a bunch of stuff and not had the success that they thought they were because they thought everything could be done on a click, 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 and there's major issues. So I would get set up with those load boards, whether it's JB Hunt or Amazon, and you guys know Amazon well, but other types of companies like that offer loads. And then once you get set up on their load board, generally they will allow you to have a rep. You always want a point of contact. If you don't have somebody working for you at a brokerage, it's going to be very difficult for you to ever negotiate rates or have somebody who can pre-book for you on good shipments that are in your lanes. If you don't have a contact that's going to be looking out for your company's best interest at a brokerage or at a shipper or at a 3PL, you're going to have a hard time getting the best rates, finding the best loads in that atmosphere. So, and here's the truth. You're going to call into a DAT posting or an internet truck stop posting and you're going to say, I want 1,200. And the person on the phone, if you've never talked to them ever, they might say no and just hang up on you. But if you know the person or know someone, Steve or Tom or Sally or whoever, and you say, hey, can you give me that load for 1,400? They may have the position of the company to help you or the financial setup or that's their customer direct and they can get you the price you want. So, after you take care of your internal business with drivers, you need to make sure that your team is contacting multiple brokers and whatever. So when days are done, let's say you have 5 trucks, 2 trucks, and you book loads for them for 3 days, your team shouldn't be done working. They should actually still be contacting other brokerages, other shippers, just to get set up. For an hour a day, if you told people,
so
hey,
I'm sorry for interrupting. So just a conclusion, you're saying, first of all, set up the good relationships with the existing brokers and never stop calling another brokers and setting up new relationships.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Anytime you want to move a particular truck and you want to increase the amount of truck in your company, you need to first of all go with good relationships, right?
Absolutely. You're going to get farther. Go ahead.
Like you.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mark. Glad to hear you. You know that market is hot right now, especially California outbounds. Okay.
Yep.
Your predictions for upcoming peak season and what's your forecast for 2021? Yes, Mark. So great question to Mark. I help you guys to get this question to Mark more delivered. So they're trying to understand what's your prediction. I mean, Mark is, nobody can predict, even Mr. Trump, or you can call the president of the United States and ask for the prediction, but even he will not be able to say.
He will not know. The president doesn't. I mean, listen, the factors that are going to adjust this next year there's many of them. So give me 1 second really quick. Sorry, I just had to help my family with something. Go ahead. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so California, my opinion. Let's start there. I predict that California will be incredibly busy until at least December 31st. You will see a large spike up all through the rest of the retail year. There's just a shortage of capacity. There's continually containers coming into both Long Beach and LA daily. Just a backlog from COVID hasn't caught up. Do I think it'll last all the way through 2021? I'm not sure. I think we'll see and I'll give you a better answer than that. I think we'll see a little bit of a slowdown in January and February like we always do. But because there was such a significant drop in shipping for a sustained period of time, I'm not sure how much the Chinese New Year, which is usually what affects the shipment slowdown in January and February. Usually they don't ship at all for a 4 to 5 week period, which really depletes inventory and inbound containers. So if they ship strong through January because they're trying to catch up, then yes, I think California will be big. Will be strong all next year, but it's too hard to tell because again, factors like the election are going to be a huge factor. And what the exact, there's just a lot that's going to change. I think personally, there could, and it's still so unknown. But if I had I don't really want to go out on a limb and make a huge prediction about 2021. I think the rest of this year is going to be very strong, especially in the West Coast. And the telltale sign, I think, is if January and February next year are still very strong with rates, then 2021 is going to be a very strong year. Every day we walk into something new. Every week, I think capacity is going to loosen up. It doesn't. But I would love to predict, but
that if you fell very fluctuating. Previous week was different. This week is different, and 1 week is good. The second one is not. And the weeks divided onto ups and downs. Sometimes so good, and then Tuesday is totally bad, and then Friday is so good, and Saturday is so bad, and then Sunday is all loads popping up. Everybody looking for trucks. So I would say that something that's happening right now in trucking world is a phenomenon. We never had this kind of experience during this period of time. From end of August till December, it was usually not so big and not so hot. So we can notice how market changed and how right now brokers like Mark Maggio, who is working for Global Trans, trying to having a little hard time, right, Mark? You having a little hard time on coverage, it was not before this, right?
Yeah, no, this is so August to December generally in most years is when it's the busiest. And you can even push it back depending on your customer base to even as early as Memorial Day, so May. If you're heavy into food and beverage, generally consumption during the summer is significantly more. Shipments aren't growing. If capacity is tighter, then you'll see certain markets in Florida and Texas. Other areas that usually are busy during the summer, factor in some produce shipping. Generally it's not, what we've seen in the last 6 months or last 3 months through the rest of this year is pretty unprecedented. It all runs in cycles. So we saw an uptick in 17 till about September, October of 18. It started slowing down. 19 was a relatively flat down year for most trucking companies. And now we saw everything with this year, which has literally touched every aspect. January and February were a downturn. We weren't sure when the market was going to flip. A pandemic hits. We see a huge spike in March of food and beverage, like we talked about, people consuming and stocking up. And then we see April and May go to the lowest rates I've ever seen. And then now we're at the highest rates we've probably ever seen. So again, that's why I'm very, very skeptical on what's up.
Yeah. Go ahead. Just after your speech, we have a couple of questions here.
Yeah. I'm saying, let me put it this. I'm very skeptical to predict past December 31st of this year, because I don't know.
You don't want to say.
I don't want to say, and I don't think anybody really knows exactly what's going to happen. But again, in closing, like I told you guys, in order to be successful in any business, brokerage, trucking, you have to be flexible and you have to be diversified. If you're not going to do that, you're going to have a hard time adapting to any market like this, or any bad market, good market. You have to be spread out through your business. Otherwise, you're going to be at the, you're going to be susceptible to market changes that are negative.
That's true. First question is, which one is better, to take a lease truck or take a truck for credit for new companies? I would address that question saying it depends on your financial budget of your company and your plans, of course. When you open a trucking company, not all the companies have an ability to take a truck for lease. Some of them can, because they have good credit history, they have a good, and here as well, if you have friends in rider and if you have friends in trucking leasing companies, you can find those opportunities. But if you don't, so you have to have a good credit history, or you have to have a good budget or investment. So the second question is from Vanner Inc. You probably you know the trucking company Vanner, right?
I work with Vanner, yes.
So the administrator of their page is asking, is it much harder to be a broker rather than truck dispatcher? Good question. So
I've personally never been a truck dispatcher. I think that being a broker, you're able to be, again, you're able to understand all markets. You're not just covering, most companies and larger brokerages, and even mid-sized brokers allow their freight brokers to focus on freight in every market. Build relationships with trucking companies all across the United States. So from an aspect of what it's like to be a broker, you do learn an overall trucking knowledge by being a broker. I can only imagine that being a truck dispatcher, you're really just working on the trucks that you have to cover. You have 20 in your fleet, you're trying to send them to certain markets. Some drivers want to do certain runs. Once those 20 are done, your day may be done, so to speak. You got shipments lined up. And that's where I said earlier that if you really want to have a strong, a trucking company that's continually growing and growing relationships, it's not just looking ahead at the 20 trucks in front of you. You need people on your team reaching out to customers. You need people on your team reaching out to other brokers, getting set up with new dedicated opportunities. You got to think big picture. So I guess I can speak for what I know on the brokerage side, and you could probably speak further, Steve, on the trucking side as a dispatcher if you want now.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy your speech. I would say that I've been a broker for a company called Core Logistics, and I do agree brokerage never stops. Like you don't have like a capacity that you cover. After you cover, you have to work with the customers you do have. Then after you work with your customers, you have to go back to that loads that you covered and see if they're going well on the road, and then go back to the new customers that you're looking to find. And however, in trucking, Mark, I would say something else. All right, in trucking, there are a lot of issues every day. They're daily issues, weekly issues, monthly issues. They're yearly issues, and sometimes you cannot even stand up and go have a lunch. Sometimes you have to do a lunch during the work because there are coverage, there are issues, and there are problems that occur day by day, and you have to keep them up. So whenever you're a trucking company, let's say from 15 to 40 truck, it is not so bad. Like you can still handle and have a little time during the day to use it for yourself. But whenever it goes to 120, 150 and more, then it starts go all over. You cannot stop. It's the work going to be always. Like whenever you're online, there is the work. All right.
So here's the thing. Let me just speak to that. I've worked 15 years in my office, and unless a carrier or customer comes there, I've eaten lunch at my desk every single day of my life. So that is the same in the brokerage world. Where it differs, Steve, I think, is that you as a truck dispatcher are now responsible for another person doing a direct action. So you actually have to make sure, you know, your team covers 20 trucks. Your dispatchers are not where you're dispatching trucks, we're covering loads. So it's a different story. There's a personal side to every single one of your dispatchers. They have to call or talk or message to driver one, driver two, driver three. What if driver two is like tired today, doesn't want to work, doesn't want to, there's a whole personal side that is involved in a truck dispatcher. And I'm not saying there's not another brokerage. It's just a different entity. We're working on covering shipments. That's a major factor we have to do. So we're working with dispatchers. If you don't cover a load, indirectly, you don't have, or if you do cover, you don't have a driver calling saying, I don't want to do it. That's a difference. So it's along the same line. It's just more of a personal aspect when you have a truck dispatcher has to call every single driver or has to message every single driver, make sure they do their job, as opposed to a broker who is working with a one point of contact, a dispatcher, to make sure loads get picked up, or a carrier or a fleet. So it's similar in a sense. There may be a little bit more of a relationship that could be positive or negative with the driver or dispatcher thing. So that's about, you know, that would be my only guess of where you guys may encounter issues where drivers don't want to do stuff, or they only want certain high paying loads, or they only want to go to certain markets or whatever.
So we do have two more questions here.
Okay.
So there are a very interesting question. It says, can you please count top 10 brokerage company that can provide excellent freight?
You know what? Honestly, I don't want this to be a bring up who I think are good brokerages, and I don't want to do that. I work for Global Trans. I think they're a good company. I think most of your large
billion.
I think that most of your large brokers, and you know what? Whoever asked that question, tell them that it's super easy. Go to Google, type in top 10 3PL 2020. It'll give you a list of 10. I guarantee each one of those companies offers really good services to all brokerages. This now comes down to a trucking company reaching out to them specifically, trying to get a point of contact and trying to see what dedicated businesses are out there. I don't ever want to speak bad about any brokerages. I know many people at a lot of brokerages across the country in the United States. I think that everyone has their niche, and I think that there's good people at all of them. And there's good people at our company. So I think it all comes down to a trucking company reaching out, finding the right contact at each one of these, and that's the way to find the best.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Exactly. Jack Dawson, the author of the question, I would say, never judge the company by their ratings, by their statistics, by their sales or volume. It's about how the carrier and representative of the carrier are able to build a relationship, because every broker has their best loads that they would like to give to the best carrier. They don't give that to any kind of random carrier that is calling to them. In order to be the best, you have to settle the best relationships. And in order to settle the best relationships, you have to build it with the time and experience, show the service, and on-time pickup, on-time delivery, good service during the trip. So during the timeline from point A to point B. So here's two. And another question here, I would say that very interesting. Mark works with a lot of Uzbek companies too, but I would say
I saw the question, and I'm not going to answer it. I think that I have relationships with many Uzbek companies, and I always try to garner more. So I don't think that anybody is better. I think there are companies that I work with more than others, but that's only because maybe they have a particular niche or a particular need for a piece of business I have. Again, and you just spoke about relationships. I think that if you want to build a strong relationship, you also as a trucking company have to make certain sacrifices, whether it's dedicating equipment, dedicating teams, offering drop trailers, making an extra sacrifice to get a dedicated piece of business is probably going to help you long term, because I know this for a fact. Whenever I get dedicated opportunities from direct customers, I know exactly who to contact, who I think may fit best. And then once I feel that there's a reciprocation of that from an asset-based carrier, then I'm like, okay, hey, well, next time we have an opportunity, I'd be more likely to reach out to Steve or reach out to, whoever.
Yeah.
And I think Vanner asked the question. We've done some dedicated bit. There's just whenever we have opportunities, we try to reach out to particular carriers that we feel fit best for them. Now, maybe they offer us something and the price doesn't work, or maybe we offer them something and it doesn't fit them. So again, it's just an open, understanding of what fits best for them. And once you see that sacrifice back from a carrier partner, then you are able to offer them more, and you'll probably see some better loads on the spot market and some other opportunities that other people might not get.
That's true. That's definitely true. Thank you very much, Mark. So we almost done. We have like a 4 minutes left. I would say thank you very much for all listeners today who joined our conversation with Mark Maggio, representing Global Trends. And soon, especially we have here a lot of listeners from Uzbekistan, and soon we're going to have a lot of big projects and big plans that's coming. We won't tell that right now what is exactly, but you guys are going to see. It's going to be very interesting and very useful for people of Uzbekistan and developing countries from the side of United States as well. And Mark, as a conclusion, hopefully you enjoyed our conversation. And as you see, we try. And I'm really sorry for the technical problem on the Instagram. And next time if we make that conversation, we'll definitely do that on Zoom and then put it on our page.
Yeah, in closing, I just want to say thank you, Steve, for your team. Thank you, Lucid, and everybody for wanting me to reach out and speak for an hour. I'm always free to do stuff like that in outside of work hours, because usually my day is generally busy, and I do actually communicate with a lot of people on this stream and across the Uzbek logistics industry. So again, thank you guys for having me. Again, I appreciate it. I think that there's a lot of good things. I think that it's, if I could say anything in closing, is just make sure that you guys are continuing to diversify your business, work with as many brokers as possible. Yes, I'd love to book every single one of your trucks. Don't know if that's possible, but I think it's strong. And I think that with any business, you're going to have success with good people and having diversification across your customers and being able to grow. That's the best way to do it. If you have multiple, sources coming in, you'll be able to grow your trucking company significantly. Again, I thank you again, and I appreciate it, and for you guys allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hamaga Rahmat. I'm just saying Rahmat, it's like thank you in Uzbek language.
Of course, anytime, my friend.
Yep.
And thank you guys for listening.
Thank you one more time, Mark. See you soon.
Talk to you. Absolutely.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.